Everybody, if you can rename yourself with what city, what breakout room city or town you want to go to, that'll help us assign you to the proper breakout room for that time. So just keep your name and then do comma and whatever town your ADU is in or whatever town you have questions about.
I don't see myself on this, but Marshall.
Stinson Beach.
I don't see myself either.
Tamales.
It won't help us if you say it out loud. But if you do see your name, if you click on the participants link,
Okay.
and then see if you can find your name. Thanks to those who are putting their cities in there. It'll help us with the breakout rooms because we're trying to pair you with your whatever city staff from your city.
Could I also suggest if you're not on a mic, please mute because we could hear a TV in the background.
I'm going to go ahead and mute all. So presenters, why don't you unmute yourself? I'm going to mute all though.
James Lynch.
Corte Madera.
Presenters, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to start. Thank you, everyone, and good evening. My name is Jillian Namath-Zeiger. I'm a planner in the Housing and Federal Grants Division at the County of Marin. Thanks for coming to tonight's webinar. At tonight's webinar, we're joined by Josh Abrams and Brandy Campbell-Wood. They're our project team from Baird and Driscoll, who worked with all of the participating jurisdictions to create this lovely workbook and website. We've also brought in some financial expertise. Lindsay Moon from Searchlight Lending is here to discuss financing in ADUs. We also have Ruth Lopez, who is here from CLAM and Real Community Rentals to talk about being a landlord. Please mute yourself if you're not speaking. We have some feedback here. We also have planners from each of the jurisdictions that I will introduce in a little bit. So tonight we'll discuss the new state laws and implications for development, more information about our website, how to get started on building and financing. We'll have Q&As at each point to help answer some of your questions. Then we'll have breakout rooms where you can talk to a planner. We have planners from San Anselmo, Corte Madera, Larkspur, or Unincorporated, West Marin. And then we will talk about renting or moving in and wrap up by answering any final questions. So the first thing we're going to do is take a poll. Maisha, could you pull up the first poll?
Before we do, though, I actually wanted to go over a little bit of Zoom housekeeping. No problem at all. So this is Brandy Campbell-Wood from Baird and Driscoll Planning. And just so we all know, if you have a question, we want to hear from you. We want to answer your questions. Be sure to put them in the chat at any time, and we'll get to as many as we can tonight. Again, if you have yet to do so, if you can click on your name that's displayed and add the name of your city, that'll help us connect you with the right room so you can talk to planners from your city and ask them specific questions. I also wanted to mention that tonight's webinar is recorded and will be available to view at a later time on our website. And in an attempt to get to know you all better, we wanted to ask you 5 polls throughout the course of the evening. They're anonymous, and the results will just help us learn more about what kind of information might most be helpful.
Thanks, Brandy.
Sure.
So the first poll, Maisha, could you pull up the poll? I'll read it. Or Josh, okay.
Oh, people are voting.
Oh, okay, I was gonna read it out loud. I will do that anyway. Why are you joining us today? I'm interested in building an ADU because housing for my family, housing for the community, rental income, moving into an ADU, housing for caregivers, or on-site assistance, or not sure yet, just interested. We'll give you a little more time.
Scott wants not sure. We'll add that for future webinars.
How do you mark the poll?
How do you mark the poll?
Don't worry, if you don't see it, should have popped up on your screen. If it didn't, then it's not a big deal. It's just kind of more curiosity.
This is Manny, Julian, and Joshua. The last two options are identical, I think.
We'll combine them.
Okay.
Should we keep going? Should we close the poll?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next steps.
Jillian, so it looks like most people are looking for housing for the family, but well, actually most people, it's about equal. Looking for rental income, about equal with housing for the family. And a number of people are motivated to provide housing for people in the community, which is great, which is a really great use of an ADU. Next slide. So I guess I should actually introduce myself as I'm talking. Hi, everybody. My name is Josh Abrams. I helped create a bunch of tools for a couple of counties, but most recently for Marin, to guide people about how to build in ADU. And they'll be appearing on the Marin ADU website pretty soon. We'll talk more about that. I just want to start by giving a little bit of context. What is an ADU? An ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, has lots of names. It's a granny flat, a converted garage, a basement apartment, but they are all small homes that are in addition to the main house, kind of accessory. That's what I call accessory dwelling units. And they're also great at addressing the broader housing challenges in our county. They're great for family, for renting, or to downsize into when you're ready. Next slide. There's a bunch of different types of ADUs. There's, you can see on this slide, sorry, I have to make it a little bigger for me. The tradition, most people think of a detached ADU, kind of a freestanding building, but it could also be attached to the main house. A lot of people will do a remodel or an expansion at the same time they build an ADU. You can convert some interior space, the basement or the attic, to form an ADU. Garage apartments are fairly popular too, and there's in some cities you're allowed to do an above garage apartment. There's a special type of ADU called a junior ADU, and these are smaller. They're up to 500. They can be smaller, up to 500 square feet. Their main advantage is that they don't have to have a full kitchen, and they can actually share a bathroom with the main house if you want. The main disadvantage is that there's an owner occupancy rule, and so the owner has to live in the unit or one of the units, the junior ADU or the main house. So for that reason, if you can build an ADU, it's probably a better idea to build a small ADU, and then you don't have to have that owner occupancy rule. The good news is that it's easier than ever to build ADUs. The state has passed a series of laws making it easier. So now they're allowed in every residential zone with limited exceptions. But pretty much if you have a single family home or a multifamily home, you're likely to be able to build an ADU. Homeowners associations aren't allowed to outright prohibit ADUs either. There's no impact fees if it's under 750 square feet, and there's no water fees. It's a little more complicated, the rules, but in a lot of cases the water fees can be waived too. If it's built between now and 2025 and it's not a junior ADU, there's no owner occupancy rules. And in most cases, there's no additional parking requirement. Occasionally there's one spot, but mostly none. And you can convert pretty much any legally built space to an ADU if you want. And then the last point is, if you built an ADU without permits, you can request a 5-year period to bring that into compliance without penalties. It's a little more complicated. We're happy to answer questions about that if people have them. So our next poll question is, what type of ADU are you interested in? If you can bring that up, please.
I can't administer the polls for some reason, so someone else is going to have to bring a poll up.
There we go.
Thank you. So this poll is, what type of ADU are you interested in? Detached new construction, attached new construction, remodel or expansion, interior conversion, garage apartment / pool house, above or below garage, JDU, or not sure yet.
And if you would vote relatively quickly, we'll try and close this one a little more quickly than the last one. Give it a few more moments. Okay, well, in the poll share results, it looks like by far the most popular answer is the detached new construction ADU, which is great. And I encourage you to think about the others, but if that's what meets your needs, you should go for it. Next slide.
So the County of Marin and each city and town are very interested in creating more ADUs. And for this webinar, we have planners from all of those cities and towns. So we will have more resources on our ADU website as well, related to cities and towns in terms of what each jurisdiction requires. Next, please. The adumarin.org website is a great place to start if you're thinking about building an ADU, or if you have questions about costs or what is permissible in your jurisdiction. The workbook will be added to the website soon and will be available as a PDF, so you can print it out if needed. If you are interested in receiving the workbook, you can sign up for our mailing list on our website, and we will send you an email when we have updated the website and we have the workbook. Now we're going to watch one of the videos from our website.
There we go.
Being in Mill Valley reminds me of being in Fairfax when I was growing up as a kid, with the trees, the redwood trees, and the people. It's got a sort of a hippie vibe to it, which I like a lot.
The housing costs are too high.
Yeah.
From what I understand, a studio apartment like we have, we could easily rent it for twice what we ask.
Oh, Jane?
Well, I don't know. I haven't checked recently.
We could rent it today for 5 times what we were charging.
He's given to wild exaggerations.
No, but I'm right.
But that's part of the purpose. I mean, if we were to put the rent that high, we would be renting to a young professional and not someone who might need housing because they're commuting to a job here. Our local market is very low-key. We know the Checkers, they know us. That's how we got our current tenant. The Checkers said, "Is it true your unit is open?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "We have a new worker here that needs a place to stay. He's commuting an hour and a half each way." And so we met Stuart. He came highly recommended through the market.
The commute from Novato to work, it took some time, over an hour, 2 buses. If I missed my bus, I'd have to wait another hour for the bus to come by. So I was late, often to work. So being here with a 10-minute walk to work is much more convenient, provides a consistency that gives me a little bit more comfort as far as having a place to call my own, a place to stay.
That room that is now the ADU was our pool table room down there. And it was great attraction to our 3 sons and their friends. Then they eventually grew up and went to college and did not come back to home after college. And so we weren't using that room. And we were aware even then of a shortage of housing in Marin.
I wish there was more people like Jane so that the world can see what we can do, together to solve whatever it is we need to solve.
I just feel it's part of my civic responsibility. I have the space, I'm not using it. I can easily make it available and help somebody else. And just different socioeconomic groups, different racial and ethnic groups makes a community infinitely more interesting.
Okay, so that was Jane and Doug from Mill Valley. And when you go to the website, you'll be able to see videos. You'll also be able to see their example floor plans and from multiple other residents in the Marin County area. So it's really helpful to see what other people did and were able to do with their spaces. I wanted to give you a bit of a process overview. It's a real 1,000-foot overview. So we try to simplify it as much as we can on the website as well as in the workbook. So it's not in plainer speak and it makes sense to folks. So the first step is just getting started. You want to figure out what inspires you, what kind of goals might you have for your ADU and for your property and space, find out what is possible for your property, and also make those decisions that you'll need to move forward in the process. The next step is design. And during this phase, you'll want to work with your team or architect and contractor to finalize your plan as well as your budget. It's a really great idea to meet with the city to make sure nothing is missing. And the next step after that will be to get your permits and construction. So once your team has your plans in order and you've talked with the city, you understand everything you're supposed to get done for your application, they will be submitted. And then once they're approved, you'll receive your permits and construction can begin. And then finally, once construction is complete and all of your inspections have been passed, you're ready to rent out your unit. I wanted to talk a little bit about the getting started phase because it really is the most important one. It's often the one that hangs people up initially. So we just wanted to unpack this a little bit for you all. The first real step is thinking about what you want to build. So it can be really helpful to look at photos and floor plans and hear stories, which is why we've had them all over the website and in the workbook. It just really provides a aha moment for homeowners to say, hey, that's like my property, or wait, they did that with the basement, or wow, you can do that with a garage. So it'll really help you think about what is possible for you. You'll also want to consider a budget, obviously a really big important step. One word of advice we often give is to try not to get too fixed on a specific plan or budget figure. Design and material choices can really add up. Surprise costs are not uncommon. So identifying a ballpark figure and not being beholden to final design choices early in the design process will really help you later on. We also recommend learning what your local rules are and talking to your city or an ADU professional and figure out what will apply to your property and the specific project you want to build. Even doing a rough sketch and discussing what you hope to achieve on your property with someone at the city will help you begin to plan. They are there to help you, they want to help you, and will really welcome your questions. Finally, you're going to want to hire your team and decide on an approach. You can choose a traditional building process, which we call a site build, where the ADU is built and finished all on your property, or a prefabricated option where your ADU is constructed elsewhere and then installed. You can also hire a design build firm that will do the whole process for you, or you can begin with an architect or designer and then find a builder to actually build that. So whatever path is best for you, we do recommend hiring professionals because this will be a lot of work. So we're going to do our third poll now, if somebody could bring that up. Where we were wondering from you all, having heard all of this, what obstacles do you think there are for you to build an ADU? Would it be the permit and approval process, the building process, costs, issues with your property, issues with your neighbors, being a landlord, or maintenance? And I think that it's in progress.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I think someone's trying to pull the poll up. I'm not sure what's going on with that. There it is.
And
Okay, the permit and approval process, with costs coming in second. All right. Well, hopefully talking with your cities will clear some of your questions up today. Let's see here. So we'd love to have Lindsay Moon, who's a broker at Searchlight in, I believe, San Rafael, and also a builder, talk about financing.
Thanks, Brandy, and hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. Yes, Searchlight Lending is a brokerage right on 4th Street in San Rafael, but I am mainly working out of my home office these days. I'm in Novato, and so I am, oh, can we go back to, yeah.
That was the first one, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I'm really excited about the ADU as a potential for helping solve for the affordable housing crisis. I serve on a coalition too, the Casita Coalition, and we're really committed to trying to change some legislation in order to help homeowners even more with the accessibility, because you know it is expensive to build, and rightly so. I mean, if everybody could do it and if it was cheap, you'd see trucks lined up everybody's block. It is an expense. You are building. I mean, I saw most of you wanted to do a detached unit. I mean, that's still a home. You still need everything that goes into a home. So with that being expensive, there are many options in order to pull out the equity and pay for these expenses, and utilizing the equity that you have in your home. And the two best ways to do it are doing what's called a cash out refinance, where you are refinancing your current mortgage and also adding to it and pulling out some additional equity into your from that mortgage and from the equity, and utilizing that to build your ADU. The other option is what we refer to as a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, which acts a little bit like a credit card, where you're issued a line of credit based again on the equity of your home, and you are able to access that as you see fit. Those are the least expensive options and the best options, aside from really hands down getting some sort of loan from friends or family. That of course, some sort of zero interest option would be ideal. There are also construction loans available, but for an ADU itself, it is a little bit limited, especially right now with the times that we're in with COVID and everything. Lenders are being a little bit more careful. And then we wanted to include some of the proceed to caution options, company rent shares, private money, and reverse mortgage. Those are really going to be for specific people. A company rent share is basically handing off the build to a company who will, it sounds quite nice and it will work for some people. They will build your ADU for you and take care of all of the costs, but they then retain the rights to that unit for, say, 12 years. And they will also help find a renter, but they have a say in the whole process, and they will be kind of managing that unit for you for a while before you own it outright. So not necessarily an option for people who want to maybe have a family member living there. Private money is also a potential option, but it is it can be risky. It's great for investors, but not always great for homeowners. And reverse mortgages, also there are some stigmas to reverse mortgages, but there are also some valid things that you should be cautious about, and they are really only for homeowners that are 62 and older and basically own their home outright. And I do suggest connecting with your CPA or financial advisor, somebody that you trust financially, to discuss whether a reverse mortgage might work for you. Not talking to any broker, but actually talking to somebody that really knows your finances and whether or not that could work for you. So I'm covering a lot in one slide, but I'm also happy to kind of answer questions at the end. And also, I recognize that everyone's situation is very specific, and everyone's situation, of course, is confidential. So please feel free to reach out to me afterwards. My information is going to be shared. With regards to the financing options, you're kind of going to find yourself in one of these 4 brackets that are shown on the screen. You are going to have high home equity and high income, and those are kind of the recommended options there for what you might go for in terms of utilizing your home equity and building an ADU. Again, for low income and high home equity, those two, if you have high home equity, depending on your income scenario, that is certainly doing, again, excuse me, a home equity line of credit or a cash out refinance is going to be the best way to go. There will also be those of you that are in the low home equity and or the low income bracket, and there are options out there. There are also potentially options that are hopefully coming down the pipeline with potentially new legislation like state-backed loans for those that may not be able to afford it, but it would be of great benefit. So there may not be options immediately, but certainly keep your finger on the pulse of things to make sure that you're learning about all the different options out there. Next slide. One last thing I want to say is to be prepared and really start to plan early. With COVID and the times that we're in, if you are doing any sort of refinancing, financing in general, it is highly scrutinized. It is taking a while, and you should be ready to show a tremendous amount of documentation, more so than you may have had to in the past. So it's a good idea if you're thinking, I want to get this going, with the planning that's involved with your county and or your city, the planning that is involved with the financing. Let's say, maybe you're pinpointing spring as a good time to build. Now's the time certainly to get the ball rolling in terms of putting your team together, like they say. Lastly, just about Searchlight Lending and myself, I'm an independent broker, meaning I'm not affiliated with any bank. I work with hundreds and hundreds of different lenders, and I do all kinds of loan products. So I really have the ability to shop for my client, and I am truly beholden to my client. and their needs, and I'm able to shop for them. So there's great benefit in using an independent broker, and there's lots of us out there that are in your neighborhood and know the market really well. So I'm going to tout that, but there are certainly benefits to going to your direct bank. If you have all your finances within one bank, they may actually offer you a rate that even I might not be able to match. But as an independent broker, I am, I take an oath just like a realtor does. We are licensed just like a realtor. And so we take it very seriously. And we, again, are going to be very honest about the terms that we can present. But right now, a lot of banks are closing their deals in 120 days. Most independent brokers can do it within 60. So that's a nice feature if you want to get going quickly. And I think that's all there is on that. Right, next slide. So you guys are going to do a poll, I believe.
Yeah, we're going to do another poll. We were wondering what you would like more information about regarding financing: cash savings or liquid assets, cash out refinance, loans from friends or family, home equity loans or renovation loans, or other.
After you've taken the poll, if you have any questions about financing, we're going to do all of our Q&A through the chat box. So please type your question into the chat box in Zoom and we will get to it.
Sorry, I might have cut that off a little too early. I got twitchy fingers, but there's our results. Home equity line of credit looks like it's going to be the most popular.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I will. I'll just say, yeah, I'm happy to answer questions, and as you guys go on with questions too about codes and such, I might sign off, but I'm certainly happy. There's my information there, and thank you so much for letting me be involved with this.
Thanks, Lindsay. We
There's
have.
Hi, Jillian, can I ask a question to Lindsay? This is Manny from Marin County.
Sure, Manny.
Lindsay, I have had people come to the counter at my office in the county and tell me that they couldn't rent their ADUs or get tax write-off because they're not renting their ADUs at market rate. Or there is some kind of tax code that would prohibit renting an ADU at discounted price. Is that true, or do you know have you heard of that?
I haven't, no.
This is Josh. I'll talk to that. It's true that if you are renting to a family member for a couple $100 a month or something like that, the IRS won't let you deduct, won't let you count it as like a legitimate business with depreciation, and they won't let you deduct expenses. So there's some line where you're going to attract scrutiny. And there's talk of legislative fixes, but there's no legislative fix. Now, you should talk with your accountant. I think in reality, the IRS does not know what shape your unit is. They don't know a whole bunch of stuff. So if you're renting it at close to market prices so you can get a teacher, you're unlikely to attract scrutiny. But you should talk with an accountant because there are potential problems with that if the IRS believes it's not a legitimate rental business income.
It might behoove you to talk to a financial advisor or CPA when biting off such a project such as this, no matter what, and just making sure that it makes sense for your finances.
I get asked these types of questions similar to this all the time, and we don't know the answer because we don't deal in financing. We are a permitted agency, so sometimes so good to know. And are you guys aware of any online resources we could direct the public to?
Yeah, I'll follow up. I did see a publication on the topic.
Okay, thank you. So if you could link, if you could post a link in the chat room for everyone to
Oh,
see. Thank you.
I won't have time to do it now.
No, not today, but next time. That's fine. If you could forward it to Jillian or I, it would work.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Manny. We have a question from Ken. He's building a main house and an ADU on an unimproved lot, and he's looking for a construction loan for both. So, Lindsay, do you have any advice on that?
I would need to ask a few more questions that might be a bit more personal, but I'd certainly, if you want to send me an email, I'd be happy to speak with you.
Great. Okay. I don't have any more questions in the chat box here, but I did like that Manny asked a question that he's receiving at the counter. Are there any other planners from the jurisdictions that are receiving financing questions that might want to ask Lindsay at this time?